Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Tania. Today's video is a collab video with Winnie B LV. By the way, did you know she's got no intro? She's got no outro. She's just a hoe. For those of you who are stopping by for the first time and you've just heard me say that about a fellow YouTuber, please bear in mind that they are her words, not mine. But anyway, she's very funny. Please head over to her channel. We thought we would collab today and we are going to answer the Christmas traditions collab video questions that were put together by Dayle's Addiction, Autumn Beckman, and styled by Gwenny. And they worked together recently and they answered these questions, and their answers were based on an Australian Christmas. Dayle is from Northern Australia, from England, and from obviously Texas, where Autumn is from. So Winnie and I were talking and we're catching up, and we thought, why don't we do those and answer those questions? And obviously we will give our spin to those questions. So let's get started. Okay, so this is called the Christmas at My Place collaboration questions. I will be answering from an Australian and Italian perspective. I am of Italian descent, so my Australian Christmas traditions are very much imbued with the Italian traditions that my family has continued to hold on to, especially growing up. There are some changes now that I'm older and I have my own children, which have added quite an interesting flair to our Christmas celebrations. So let's get on to the first question. So first question is, what will the weather be like? Now, I'm in Melbourne, Victoria in Australia. We are down south. So we have had all types of weather, and it's known here that in Melbourne we tend to get 4 seasons in one day, sometimes not always. Usually our Christmases are quite hot, although we have had some cooler ones, but generally warm, and sometimes they can be a little bit muggy or humid. So for the most part, they're warm. A typical Christmas Day outfit for me would be a nice pair of pants and just a flowy top. Nothing too tight, because you know there are times when you just need to release and pop a button and just let everything out. It's just, you know, maybe a nice dressy smart casual top, maybe something like this, you know, some nice jewelry to accessorize, always a nice handbag, nice pair of sort of maybe slim pants or capri pants or slim jeans or jeggings, or you know, that type of thing. Of course, that question, you know, is very relative, because it depends on what your family or your group of family and friends do at these times of the year. But for us anyway, it's very much a situation of smart casual. Sometimes I've worn a dress with heels, or sometimes I've just worn a nice outfit with a sort of a mid heel. I don't really go for flats. Favorite festive foods and drink. Okay, now this is where the Italian influence comes in, because I'm of Italian descent. Our Christmases and our Christmas meals tend to be quite large. So in past years, our Christmas has often revolved around spending half a day with one family, half a day with the other. So usually the Christmas Day lunch tends to be the heavier meal, and depending on whatever the circumstances have been over the years, we've had some type of antipasto, which is a collection of cold meats and cheeses and crackers and dried fruits and various fruit pastes or quince paste that goes with particular types of cheese. There is often olives that accompany that as well. Then there could be some type of a seafood platter, and then that will also be supplemented by a hot meal soon after. And depending on how many courses as an Italian-Australian family you tend to have, that could then move into the pastas. So in the past, we've always had a lasagna, or my then mother-in-law used to make her own homemade cannelloni or her own homemade ravioli, which I've helped her make, which requires a whole day, but exquisite and extremely delicious. Homemade sauce, of course. Then there will be some type of a meat dish, either a roast turkey or some other type of roast. And if we don't have turkey, we have duck. And if we don't have duck, we might have a roast lamb. You know, our Christmases and our celebrations tend to be outdoors, weather permitting. So there tends to be a lot of spits happening, a lot of barbecue type meals, lunches or dinners, whatever the case is. Seafood on the barbie, meats on the barbie. People cook, you know, hot pot meals on the barbecue. So we tend to have, you know, very much an indoor-outdoor type of take on our Christmas meal. Often with the meal will come the Christmas crackers, you know, then there's a pudding and or Christmas cake. Although I'm from an Italian background, we tend to have both the English traditional Christmas cake and pudding, which Mum makes one of each year, along with the hot custard. And then we always have the Italian dessert, which would be some type of panettone, a tall sweet bread with fruit and mixed peel through it, or the plain one, which is called the pandoro, which is nice and tall and it's sort of ridged, and that's just plain brioche sponge. So there's that. Then later on in the afternoon, for example, there might be some type of a fruit platter as a snack. Then we might have some ice cream somewhere in there, and usually we will have some type of Italian type of ice cream. And again, this is from my perspective, Italian and Australian. So we might have some Italian type of desserts. We might have cannoli, we might have some crostoli, which are nice crispy fried pastry type biscuits with icing sugar. We might have almond crescent biscuits, or we might have amaretti. There's always coffee somewhere in there, always coffee. I mean, no Italian doesn't have coffee. What else? There might also be other Italian ice creams like cassata, tartufo, bacio, always some type of chocolate, and then of course whatever other dessert, you know, each individual might bring to that particular gathering. So there is a lot of food, and essentially any Christmas meal in an Italian/Australian family is quite an affair, and it requires a lot of time and it requires a lot of effort to consume and digest all this food. And then depending on the situation, of course, and remember, everything is relative, there will be some type of a supper later on. So in my case, we've often had a Christmas Day lunch with one family, which tends to be quite large, like I said, and then we would attend the other family in the evening for the evening. So whatever the evening meal might be, it's usually either leftovers or a lighter supper, so maybe seafood again later on, or maybe just something light like cold cuts again. That was a very long answer to a very short question. And in terms of drinks, well, there's always champagne, of course, to toast the Christmas day, Aperol Spritz, you know, Camparis. There's always some Rosantico with some champagne. There is always, you know, some type of a wine with our meal, a muscat maybe, or moscato with our dessert, or sometimes we have coffee with a little bit of extra in there, maybe like grappa, or some digestive type alcoholic drink, you know, some type of a bitters type of aromatic bitters that goes into the coffee to help you digest, that type of thing. So that's my type of Christmas. Oh, Christmas soundtrack. Well, it's so hard to go past Mariah Carey. A variety of Christmas carols. I do love O Come All Ye Faithful. Silent Night is always a beautiful one. And then any of those sort of modern Christmassy, either religious songs or just general modern Christmas songs. When do you exchange gifts? Okay, again, depending on each family. My own personal family growing up, we always did our Christmas gifts first thing on Christmas Day morning, and my brothers and I would wake up early. We would run over to the tree and we'd wake up my parents, and they would drag themselves out of bed despite being exhausted, and we would do the familial or the family-based Christmas gift opening carry-on. Paper thrown everywhere, ribbon everywhere, you know, we'd have some Christmas music playing in the background, and then we'd do a bit of a clean-up and then go off and have breakfast, or maybe just a cup of coffee or something, and then get ready for the onslaught of the meal. When I was married with my children, I wanted to keep that tradition. My husband at the time didn't like the idea of waking up so early and having to do the gifts, whereas the kids were like dying to know what their gifts were. So often it was a waiting game. We needed to wait until he woke up, and then he might sort of agree to do the gifts. You know, he came from a different sort of setup where the gifts sort of happened later, but I myself couldn't wait. So it was hard on the kids to wait for breakfast to happen first and then go open the gifts, you know. So the order was very different for our two families. Favorite Christmas movies. Oh, this one's a hard one to choose. I do love the National Lampoon's collection, and it's so hard to go past the Griswold Christmas because there is just so many elements to it that are just so funny. Then of course there's the Home Alone series, the laughs that come from that, you know, no matter how old you are. Any of those other type of Christmas movies like Love Actually and the other versions of that have come out since then, I find those really enjoyable and just I'm happy to sit and watch them, even though I know them. I even bring out movies like Bridget Jones's Diary, you know, any of those feel-good movies, any sort of Christmassy-based movie that's on Netflix, that's the way it goes. Okay, what's my decorating aesthetic and what decorations do I like to use? Well, this is my new tree, as you can see. I won't show you the top because I still don't have a star. But basically I go for some sort of simple looks. I love tinsel on a Christmas tree, but my daughter said to me this year, no tinsel. So we've just gone with the white, rose gold and silver color scheme. I love lights on a Christmas tree. I like draping Christmas tinsel and so on around the house. I don't have a lot of decorations in this house to date. But I like ornaments around and beautiful candles and just, you know, draping nice cards or Christmas wreaths or those nice Christmas table runners around the place. So that's my style, just interspersed or what's the word, just strewn around the house in strategic positions. Favorite Christmas pastimes and traditions. Well, that's interesting. Growing up, we always used to go to the cemetery, which sounds a little bit morbid, I know, but we used to go to visit my grandparents who had passed at the time, and that's something I still do. So now I go to visit my father who passed a couple of years ago. You know, it's something that we do as a family. It's another way of still keeping that family member prominent in our thoughts and in our, you know, feelings of the day. Other traditions would be after a main meal, we'll wait a little bit and then we will go for a walk of some kind. And that's sort of like in preparation for the later on meal, if there is one, or to help us digest the monstrous meal that we've had just prior. Heading out for a quick visit to visit someone else and then come back. Playing cards, again, of an Italian background. There are many people who will play those Italian games like briscola. Playing or looking at old photos is another one that we tend to do. Playing old films. So growing up, my family used to show the old Super V8, which is, you know, on the reel with the film, and you have to put it on the little thing and show it on a projector of some kind. So yeah, so that's what we used to do. So how has Christmas changed for you compared to my childhood Christmas? Well, for these last 20 or more years, I've been more involved in the planning of Christmas. Whereas growing up as a child, it was more about me just turning up to Christmas. So there's more cooking, more planning, more organization. As I've gotten older, I think some of that Christmas luster has been lost, you know, because of a variety of reasons, which I won't go into now. But when not everyone, if that makes sense, is on board with the fun, frivolity, and the anticipation of Christmas, it's difficult to feel that and to continue to feel it. And last question, what are you most looking forward to this Christmas? Well, for me, after the recent challenges that I've had, I am in my own house now, my own home, I should say, and this will be my first Christmas in this house. So it'll be interesting because my kids won't be with me the whole day. That's going to be sad, but it's just the one day and I still see them otherwise. So that's how my Christmas will be looking this year. Thank you to Autumn, Dayle and Gwenny for coming up with this concept, and this was really interesting. I'd love to see some other YouTubers do this so we can learn about what your Christmas looks like and what your traditions are. And I really do look forward to reading your comments. So let us know, or let me know, you know, what your traditions are in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please head over to Winnie's channel. I will have her video linked below and you can watch hers too. And if you've come to me from Winnie, hello and welcome. I hope you'll consider subscribing. So take care everybody, God bless, and I'll see you next time. Ciao!